our agenda, please? Yeah, if you don't want to be recorded, please turn off your mic and your video.
So hi guys, first of all, thank you so much for being here. And I really wanted to emphasize to each and every one of you my appreciation for you guys attending this webinar. Thank you for taking your time to learn more about women and the issues they face. And this isn't just a thank you from me, it's a thank you from her, them, and us. So let's get to it. Today, as you can see, I have an agenda on the slide, and we're not just here to inform you of the challenges women face, but we are actually going to take you on a crash course of why and what we can do as individuals to make this world a better place for everyone. So as you can see, some topics we'll cover include the gender pay gap, famous women around the world who broke gender barriers, and how you can break gender barriers too. So let's go on a journey. So for today's webinar, we were really fortunate to have a variety of awesome panelists join us from Modern Divergence, and these are the panelists. So I'm going to introduce myself, and then the other panelists can introduce themselves as well. So my name is Aishwarya Sudarshan. I am the Director of Development at Modern Divergence, and today I will be speaking about the inequalities that women face.
Hello, y'all. My name is Tripp, and I'm a writer, regional ambassador, and I'm a member in conferencing at Modern Divergence.
Hi, my name is Esohe Ester, and I am a podcaster for Modern Divergence. Among other things, I like to run track, and I used to compete and be a professional dancer.
So we also have invited some absolutely amazing guest panelists to join us today, and they'll be doing a brief intro of their names and what they bring to powerful women on the table. So let's start with Mica.
Hi everyone, I'm Mica. I am so excited to meet you all and share, and thank you for having me.
Hi everyone, I'm Serena, and I am the president of United Under Arts, and I'm a senior in high school.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Arnold, and I'm the founder of Youth Against Sexual Violence and a rising junior in high school in Washington State.
Hey guys, I'm very excited to be here. My name is Kristen. I graduated from Harvard last year, and I do a lot of work on trying to make as much high quality college prep information available as possible.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I graduated from UC Berkeley, and I'm actually the Director of Growth and Partnerships at Empowerly, which is an ed tech startup based in Berkeley, which provides online college counseling services for students.
So first, we're going to hear some things from Sophia, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you for having me, Modern Divergence. So I'm a rising junior from Washington. I moved here when I was 13 from the Los Angeles area. I am the founder and president of Youth Against Sexual Violence, which is a nonprofit that combats sexual abuse in over 20 states with about 400 members. What I do outside of Youth Against Sexual Violence, I'm the PR director for a nonprofit that focuses on civics education. I'm a part of Beyond Resolve, Junior Statesmen of America, Speech and Debate, and Track and Field. I've also joined a Democratic campaign to overthrow our incumbent Congresswoman as a campaign staffer. I'm passionate about politics, activism, and how the two interconnect in social justice and advocating for equality. I enjoy reading, hiking, and I also like making floral arrangements. For the future, I think I will go into either law, diplomacy, or maybe Capitol Hill. How being a woman has impacted my life. 7th grade was the first time I realized that this is a man's world. Our society caters to men and was built with that intention. Women and men with the same traits are labeled differently, and we are valued for our looks first and foremost. Issues that predominantly affect women are pushed to the back burner or managed by men. And oftentimes men, when you bring these issues up to them, say that doesn't happen simply because they don't harass women, so they think no men do. Being a woman, and an outspoken one at that, has resulted in constantly having to affirm myself to others and always getting into confrontations, both almost exclusively limited to men. My life choices are undermined or questioned. On a daily basis in social interactions, it's a never-ending barrage of microaggressions. In my region, both debate and JSA are predominantly competed in by men. In finals, I'm often the only woman in a room of 20 people. When I do well, guys I know say it's because I must have used being a woman to get ahead. And when I do poorly, I get hit with sexist comments relating to being a woman, as if they almost expected me to fail. Men assume that they are entitled to or that I owe them something. This has resulted in confrontations, being sexually harassed and assaulted. I live in a constant sphere of wanting to be assertive and confident, but being scared of gatherings or scenes where men will be present. I would say that being a woman means I have to work 2 times harder for the same opportunities. Personal accomplishments, I would say my greatest accomplishment is obviously YASIV, although that is a 100% team effort and I owe it to my team. YASIV raised awareness for Tara Reid in a partnership with her and got prominent media to stop suppressing her story. Academically, I have various national and state awards in speech and debate that I'm proud of. At a JSA conference, my speech on reproductive rights won Best Argumentative Speech, and my work with LexGen, the civics nonprofit, was featured in Forbes and Washington Examiner. Personal failures, I would definitely say making the wrong call in personal situations quite a lot. Growing up, I was way too overeager to involve myself in other people's situations, thinking that I could fix them instead of lending a listening ear. In my first impromptu round, which is a speech and debate event where you are given a topic and you make up a speech for 6 minutes, I quit 40 seconds in a room full of people and ran out of the room crying because I wasn't informed on how impromptu worked, and all the topics were in depth about having children, which I've never wanted. The first versions of YASIV failed pretty badly, being shot down both by school administration, the school district, and a lack of interest in my own region. An issue that's really close to my heart is rape culture in education. From our first years in elementary, we're taught that our bodies exist to please men and that men can't control themselves. From the embarrassing moments of being kicked out of the classroom because our shoulders are distracting, to openly being sexualized by our teachers for showing clavicle. Women's education is jeopardized to ensure that we don't distract our male counterparts in class. This sends an important message. It undermines girls' self-autonomy, and it tells us that our actions and outfits somehow influence a man. We see that same trend follow us into high school, where our sex education classes demonize sex and encourage abstinence, instead of demonizing assault and encouraging conversations about consent. Given this, it's no surprise that high schools and colleges sweep sexual harassment and assault under the rug, from not addressing sexual abuse at all to protecting the boy accused. This issue is what inspired me to form YASIV. I was sick of seeing my own school protect abusers and not offer any form of support to victims. I was sick of when a girl reported sexual harassment, she's transferred out of the class and the school taking no further action. How YASIV got started? I got the idea for YASIV in the summer of 2019 as a rising sophomore. After my freshman year, I noticed how prevalent sexual harassment and assault was at my school and others in my region, and how it was never addressed. I joined my school's leadership to try and start an initiative to address assault at my school, and it got shot down by our administration. After our administration shut our idea down, stating that sexual violence wasn't a big issue at a school of 3,000 people, I talked to the counselors who organized the annual mental health assembly, seeing if they could possibly fit in addressing the trauma sexual abuse causes in the assembly. I never got an upfront answer, and they overall dodged it entirely, stating that it would take years to work in. That November, I created YASIV mainly to work on sexual assault in education. It became a true organization around February, where I decided I wanted to change laws to benefit survivors. What YASIV is doing right now and what we've done. Obviously, we partnered with Tara Reid on a publicity campaign and organized a phone zap against the University of Delaware to release her files. We're currently lobbying for reforming how police investigate assault in Washington state, as well as mandating trauma training for all officers. This is on the docket for the upcoming legislative session. We're lobbying to outlaw groping in Mississippi. We're lobbying to change sexual battery from a misdemeanor to a felony in North Carolina. We're lobbying for comprehensive sex education in Alabama, fundraising for women's domestic violence shelters in Washington, California, Nevada, and North Carolina. Nevada has also started working on consent workshops in high schools in their state. consent workshops at colleges, particularly Oregon. Oregon chapter has formed a coalition of public universities to combat Oregon policies, and an awareness campaign in Illinois. What we hope to do, we would like to establish a chapter in all 50 states and do our work in all 50 states, pass a federal bill to help survivors nationwide, fundraise for therapy or medical expenses for survivors, work on an initiative to benefit Indigenous women and raise awareness for how Indigenous women are targeted for trafficking and assault at a rate nearly 4.5 times higher than the national average for any other demographic, and create our own resources for survivors. Joining YASIV, you can either apply to join our core team or to join your state's chapter by either emailing us at our email, youthagainst@gmail.com, filling out an interest form on our website, www.natyasiv.org, DMing us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. We're currently in 20 states, but if we're not in your state, we'll lead you in starting a chapter. We have a step-by-step handbook for starting a chapter, recruitment, launching initiatives, be it education reform, lobbying, fundraising, or your own idea. And then my advice to other women, 2 things: acknowledge that you're accomplished, beautiful, and intelligent, and that society and its trending beauty standards don't determine your worth. Mainstream media has done its best to fuel a culture that's built on holding women up to impossible standards that are predominantly Eurocentric that change day to day. On that same note, never let anyone shame you for being confident, assertive, or voicing your mind. You're not boisterous or annoying, you're powerful. And do your best to notice internalized misogyny. When you judge a woman you don't know, or immediately look for something to critique when you notice a beautiful woman, that's internalized misogyny, because society loves to pit women against one another. Don't put another woman down for embracing her sexuality, wearing makeup or not wearing makeup, her career, her relationships, etc. Don't just work on your own confidence, try to inspire confidence in other women. Likewise, never change yourself, be it your personality, how you talk, or your style, to please a man. Thank you.
Okay, wow, that was an amazing presentation, Sophia. I really liked what you said. You guys, please drop your questions for Sophia in the chat. And if you have none, I think we can move on to Aishwarya.
Yeah, so I'll just wait a minute to see if anyone has any questions that they drop in the chat, and then I'll move on if not.
I would say my favorite memory from YASIV is both finding out that we had a sponsor in the House and the Senate for our Washington bill, meaning that it would be championed for in the legislative session, and making fun of my marketing director, Brian. YASIV was established in November, but became incorporated with the government in around April, and we called ourselves an organization in January and February. Yes, you can join your state chapter, you can start your state chapter, or you can apply for your core team. The information is on the screen for both of those options. I would say difficulties is colleges. Colleges are very adamant about not letting us work with them or their athletes. They've taken a kind of priority of protecting their athletes. And in our southern states, it's really difficult finding legislators to lobby and champion our bill because of the culture. Yes, we just started an England chapter of Youth Against Sexual Violence, and we're likely establishing a South Africa chapter. And we have people on our core team from Saudi Arabia, Canada, and Mexico. I networked by speech and debate. Jocelyn, our original directors were from speech and debate, Discord, Reddit. I opened up applications to anyone who had an interest with really no qualifications other than passion. I'm really proud of all the initiatives that we have going, and I'm really proud of my team. I couldn't have done any of this without having such an awesome, really working together team. Everyone's so passionate about helping survivors and definitely lobbying. I'm so excited for January because Washington is predicted to pass our law.
All right, looks like we can move on to Aishwarya's part of the presentation. Aishwarya, whenever you're ready.
Yes. Right. So let's think about a situation. You've landed in South Asia, and what do you see? Here, only 70% of the female population is employed. And you'll think, okay, that's pretty bad. But let's go over to sub-Saharan Africa. And then you see that the number of women employed there is 60% less than the number of women employed in South Asia. And the sectors of poverty, employment, and education are the ones that women are most negatively affected in. And collectively, they all contribute to the agricultural labor that women are a part of. So now let's address the issues with that fact. First of all, it's known that developing countries such as Asia and Africa have the primary economy of agriculture. But why is this important? Well, if you haven't already guessed, women make up most of the agricultural labor in these same countries, and they don't work under laws that suit their needs. So these are some more statistics about women in the agricultural labor and how it affects their education as well.
Thank you for that, Aishwarya. I think it's really important to bring light to the types of problems that other women face in countries. So now we're going to have Mica tell a little bit about herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mica Lejean, and I am the CEO and co-founder of 2Swim. And I'm going to spend maybe like 2 minutes giving you some background just so you know like who is talking to you, and then I'm going to tell you about the work that I'm doing. So I'm originally from Canada, Toronto, and grew up in a fairly abnormal upbringing. I came from a family of musicians, and I went to performing arts elementary and high school. I was a drama major, very, chatty. I was like the kid who I sat at everyone's lunch tables during lunchtime. I never had one friend group. And this for me was a really key factor in how I understand community, because not only was community something where it was in my personality to be outgoing and talk to folks, but it was actually a tool for survival for me. I secretly lived a double life. So by day I had this really full daytime school life, and at night my mother and I were incredibly housing insecure. And so I lived in and out of homeless and family shelters all across Toronto, and I actually ended up living in over 45 places across the city before I was 18. And so this time in my life had a really big impact on how I wanted to live my life. The arts were always a tool, but for me, financial security was the thing that I was looking for a long time. And so the first few years of my life and working as an adult in my career was actually in digital marketing. And I started when I was 17 at the end of my junior year of high school. I got an internship that turned into an almost full-time role working at a woman-run marketing company called Pink Mafia. And so that photo on the right with the camera, back when we used digital cameras to take photos at places, that was back from then. For many years, I worked in that space. I ended up getting back into the arts in my early 20s and working as a teaching artist with young folks in a very underserved community in Toronto, where I actually lived for one of the many places that I lived in for a period of time. And in 2016, I ended up actually moving to New York City with my now partner, Michael. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get back into the arts fully and completely. And so I ended up going back to school, and I went to the New School and did a self-designed degree titled Intersectional Pedagogies Through the Arts and Social Engagement. So what that means, the very long fancy title that I made up, all about how do we gain and impart forms of knowledge through an intersectional lens. So looking at these ideas through race, class, gender, sexuality, ability, and then how the arts and community organizing impact that. And doing that work at school, I actually ended up receiving a fellowship, which turned into a directorial role running the education department for an organization in New York, centered around young people, to explore how the arts could be tools for social justice, how they could use technology as a tool to find collaborators and like-minded peers. And the core piece of the work that I was doing with this organization was working with young people to find and build community through the arts. And so that's that photo in the very top there with me and Kalia. And while living and working in New York, my partner Michael and I started talking about, what could we create through technology that would be a tool for building community, for collaborating with folks. Again, thinking about the arts and about creative expression, we ended up building an app pre-2Swim that's called Waves, and Waves was a collaborative video platform. We learned a lot from it. It failed, but we learned a lot and created something new, and that's what 2Swim is. And so 2Swim is a social messaging app with an emphasis on close connections and private communities. And Faith, I think you're controlling the slides, if you will, thank you. And so I also want to give a quick shout out to Faith for being awesome and inviting me to join you all today. Faith was part of a program we just ran called New Community Builders, and I'll speak more about that in a moment. But TwoSwim, as I mentioned, is a social messaging app. We are invite only for Black, Indigenous, and POC, LGBTQIA+, or women-centric communities all around the world. And our partners come everywhere from, you know, remote places in Canada. We have young people using the app all across the United States. And we're really focused on these three pillars of community, collaboration, and culture, and what this looks like in the digital world. And so these are just a couple screenshots and things to give you ideas of what we're building. So on the right-hand side, the screenshot is what the app looks like. So at its core on TwoSwim, when you write a post, it lives for 24 hours. When I reply to your post, it extends the lifespan by 24 hours. The idea with TwoSwim is to think about conversation rather than just content. It's not about consuming and people just making content and sending it out, but actually having a conversation and engaging and exploring ideas together. We actually just had a really fun campaign around Beyonce's Lemonade album. It was National Lemonade Day a week and a half ago. And so on National Lemonade Day, we celebrated Beyonce, of course, and her record Lemonade, which of course came out right after Black is King, which I hope a bunch of people on this call have maybe seen. And really just as a day for folks who are part of the Beehive, depending on how you say it, to just come together and celebrate her work. And then at the very bottom there, you'll see a screenshot, and actually Faith is in the screenshot as well. And this is a screenshot from the New Community Builders program. And to give a little bit more background on what this program is and why we created it, as I mentioned, my background is in education and in the arts. I also actually teach a course over the internet to girls in China about intersectional feminism. So I'm very much love teaching online and creating communities online. And so when we saw what was happening with COVID and the fact that so many young folks were losing their summer opportunities, and especially, I mean, all around the world for folks who may not necessarily have certain privileges that other ones do, that gap is already widening. And so when a summer comes and no one can take internships, people are unable to go and get jobs, even like serendipitous moments where you might just be in a park with your friends and run into another group of friends and meet new people isn't quite happening the same way. And so we ended up building and creating a program called New Community Builders. Thank you. And so the whole focus of NCB is around building online communities. And this is foundational, fundamental. So what does it look like to even plan what a community is going to be? Who is in charge? Who makes decisions? What are the intentions behind it? It's actually really, really important, as I'm sure many of you on this call know from your experience, that we really need to think about what is the purpose of this community. We can't just throw a bunch of people together and hope that they have fun and talk to each other. The ideas around New Community Builders is it's a combination of online coursework, so guest speakers, workshops, working with collaborators, and then there's also a one-to-one mentorship piece. And so meeting folks from all across North America and Canada who have experience in community building in some capacity. So some of the mentors over the summer program were folks who work at Facebook with their creator division, people who have worked at Slack. We had activists, we had content creators and people who are filmmakers, and it was a really diverse group of folks to work with a really diverse group of young people. And I'm going to give you an exclusive detail because this is actually not public news yet, but I'd like to extend an invitation to all of you. We're actually turning New Community Builders into an ongoing program starting this fall. And so if any of you are interested in learning more about the program or just talking to me about, you know, intersectional feminism, inclusive design, entering technology as someone who may not necessarily have a background in it, would love to connect with you about any of that. I think someone just dropped something in the chat about that. Thank you. So please feel free to sign up for the newsletter. Feel free to email me. My email is Mica, M-I-C-A, @twoswim.plus. But I will pause it there. And I see Emily is in Toronto. Hello. Cool. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed your presentation. I really like the work you've done, and thank you for coming to talk to us. Next is going to be Aishwarya, and she's going to talk about gender in the workforce. And guys, remember, if you have any questions for Mica, please drop in the chat.
Yeah, I think I'll just wait a minute or two to see if any questions drop down in the chat, and then I'll start.
So Zoe asked, what is my favorite memory with TwoSwim? So I think my favorite memory is also a sort of, in some ways a sad one, but not bad. So the last day of the new Community Builders program, the summer one that we just did, we asked all of the mentors to create a video recognizing the participants in the program, the young people that they had a chance to meet with. And so there were about 13 or 14 mentors, and they all recorded 30 seconds to like a minute and a half long video about their mentees, and just getting to see the reactions of everyone who was in the program, because no one knew that this was happening. So getting to see everyone's reactions to that. Also, a lot of the mentors reached out after and said how this program was really impactful for them because they've never had a chance as young people to work with a mentor in this way, someone who truly understood the importance of community building for them, who had a deep understanding of it, and also in many cases looked like them, or rather just like didn't look like the norm. And so that, and when I say look like, I mean both like physically and also like mentally. And I think that was the best experience, because that truly for me is we've built a whole additional community to what we're doing right now. So my biggest challenges with creating Two Swim. Good question, Jessie. I think the biggest challenges, well, name one opportunity that I see for us is we really think about Two Swim as a big community of smaller communities. So while we are technically a tech platform, we're very much community oriented. And so I think the biggest challenge or opportunity that we face with that is making sure that people feel included and that they also feel heard. And so I have a lot of ideas around this that I won't go on too far about, but really thinking about exclusivity in service of inclusivity. So what does it mean to make sure that a space is held for people to be part of it, and distinguishing between a brave space or a safe space. A safe space being somewhere where everyone can come to this space and they say what they feel, but they don't necessarily like push any boundaries, and where brave space is like people can come and sort of like not start fights, but sort of like say things that might start a fiery conversation. And I think both have a time and a place. And so for us is really finding that balance for all of our partners.
All right, I think that about wraps it up. Thank you for speaking with us. Aishwarya, if you're ready, we can go on.
Yes. So, sorry, 1 second, my camera. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now we are going to talk a little bit about gender roles and discrimination, and specifically how they play into the workforce. So it's absolutely no surprise to anyone that women get paid less for the same amount of work that a male does. And I think that's been something that's been very consistent. And fueled by patriarchy and male domination, companies perceive men to be more competent. Ironic, right? So apart from being told to go back to the kitchen, women are also perceived to only be suited to jobs such as teaching, nursing, childcare, and social working. It's 2020, guys. Occupations don't have genders, and these occupations tend to be lower paid. The pressure for women is actually crazy. A good majority of working women are also loving mothers who tend to have to decide between caring for their family or earning money. That shouldn't have to be a choice. And I just want to say a big thank you to all our mothers in the workforce, because it definitely isn't easy. Women who give birth face what is called motherhood penalty, which is basically when women are seen as busy and occupied, and they have so many responsibilities to handle at once. So their employers suggest that they should take on less demanding or less work-heavy roles. And overall, there is a lack of flexibility for women to be both mothers and contributors in the workforce just as well as men. And did you know that men are respected more and given more opportunities when they become a parent, whereas women don't get that, and they're negatively affected because of the same thing, just because they're perceived as too busy. And that brings us to the following questions. Should women be prioritized for positions on account of their gender? And what fields are still lacking participation from women? I'd like you guys to drop your answers in the chat below. I think this would be an interesting discussion.
Hello. So while you guys are dropping your answers in the chat, I will quickly discuss women in the workforce and the answer to those two questions. So here I have for you a quick statistic on what fields are lacking in women participation. Also note that some of the fields that women are dominant in are related to domestic services such as preschool teachers and childcare workers. If you keep looking at that list of female-dominated jobs, you have secretaries, hairdressers, assistants of healthcare professionals. So now change that name from women-dominated jobs to low-paid jobs. Change that name from male-dominated jobs to high-paid jobs with lack of women participation. So now that I told you this, here's a question. Should women be prioritized for positions on account of their gender? A big, fat yes. Of course, companies should increase the diversity in their leadership forces. However, we also need to push them to make certain that workplace culture remains as free of gender discrimination as possible. So, let's move on to why women are kept in the same fields. I'll give you the answer. Start with gender, and with roles. Faith, if you can move the slide, please. Thank you. No problem. So here's a quick definition. Gender roles are how we're expected to act, dress, and conduct ourselves based on our, of course, our assigned biological sex. So girls are supposed to be polite, feminine, and nurturing based off these gender roles. And men are supposed to be aggressive and bold. That's the way it is, right? No, wrong. So the only reason gender roles exist is because of social constructs produced by society. You think that carrying a baby for 9 months would show strength, not weakness. From early on, society teaches us that Eve was dumb to eat a forbidden apple, and Adam was brave for protecting her. Next, we'll move into the performative theory. So the performative theory by Judith Butler tells us there's a difference between gender being performed and gender performing. Think of it like this. Gender perform means we're taking on a role. We are acting. That means that however we act is with the way our gender is portrayed to the world. Commonly, we lean towards acting to what is acceptable for gender roles. Don't believe in gender norms? Take a look at our next slide, where data about preferable traits in men and women is shown. Obviously, this is quite toxic, but gender is culturally formed, but a domain of agency and freedom. It is most important to resist the violence that's imposed by ideal gender norms, especially those that are against those who are gender different or non-conforming. I want to ask each and every one of you to stop acting like a boy. Stop acting like a girl. No one needs to act out any gender. You are who you are, and it's time for the world to accept that. Thank you.
All right, that was kind of a lot. So it's time for a well-deserved break for everyone. You got 10 minutes, and Faith is going to put up this meditation video in about a few seconds. I mean, or you could just use your 10 minutes to go to the bathroom or like get a snack. Maybe check out some of our panelists' websites and Instagrams.
Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Make yourself comfortable, either seated or lying down, and take a deep breath in. Hold for a count of 3, and exhale slowly and fully all the way out. And continue to take deep breaths in, holding for a count of 2 or 3, and exhaling fully and slowly all the way out. And allowing your natural breathing pattern to emerge. bring your awareness to the top of your head and notice the relaxing feeling as you release tension from your crown and moving down over your face, the back of your head, and to your shoulders. And continuing to use the breath, releasing all tension from the shoulders, noticing them as they fall all the way down. And notice your chest expanding with the in-breath and releasing tension on the out-breath. Breathing deeply through your nose. Calmly and fully. Allowing any self-talk to just pass. Without interaction. Suspending all judgment. Notice how your body responds to your breathing now. Just observe. As we sit here with the breath and full awareness on the body, we can expand our physical awareness and increase our presence through observation in the present moment. So continuing to take several deep breaths in. just as you are. Here and now. And bringing your awareness to your body. Notice the relaxation and ease within your body. As your presence expands, now gathering your attention, just observe your body and your experience right now. And now, as this meditation session is drawing to a close, the time has come to return to wakefulness in a calm and controlled manner. And in your own time, when you're feeling ready, you may end this meditation by opening your eyes and returning to your day.
All right, welcome back everyone. We're going to lead the next half of the webinar with Serena Ding, who will take it away as soon as I'm done talking, which is now.
Hi everyone, my name is Serena Ding and I am the founding president of United Under Arts. And our website is linked down below. So a little bit about me just to start. I am a rising senior at Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Arts and Performing Arts. It's a dual mission school in New York City. I specialize in instrumental music, particularly I am an alto saxophonist. And I'm also, again, I'm the founding president of United Under Arts, but I'm actually, in terms of my career goals, I'm actually more interested in business and neuroscience. And another notable thing about me is that I attended the 2020 Young Women's Institute, which is like this pre-college business program by the IU Kelley School of Business. And that's when I really started to think more about how being a girl has played into my life and the disparities between women and men in society. And one thing that I guess I really want everyone to think about, and something that's really inspired me to start United Under Arts and do a lot of the activities that I wanted to do but originally was too afraid to do, is this quote. Don't wait for change or for a leader, because frankly, if you wait, you have no idea if anything's ever going to change. Other than that, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profiles in the chat and on that slide. So some of the things I've failed at or I'm not very good at, I've failed multiple times at United Under Arts before getting it off the ground. I had the original idea in like the beginning of junior year or like the summer before, but I never really got it started until like October. And another major failure was that in the summer of 2019, I wasn't really able to get a single offer for an internship or a summer program that I really liked. And I was very upset at that point because I felt like, oh, like I have nothing else to do. And some other challenges that I continue to face is that I'm not particularly great at advocating for myself and what I believe in. And that also played into why it was so hard for me to get United Under Arts started, because while I had the idea, I wasn't fully confident in myself to actually achieve that idea. Another challenge that I struggle with is in terms of networking. I find it a little difficult to get close to people. So onto what United Under Arts and what we're doing today. We are a global student-led nonprofit organization, and our mission is to provide opportunities to learn about and experience the arts, particularly to children and the elderly. There's two reasons why we kind of started. Number one was because I've been playing music for some of my local nursing homes for quite a few months before I started United Under Arts, and I saw that, you know, they rarely ever get visitors, and they rarely ever get to interact with the younger generation or to hear music that they enjoyed from their childhoods. So I thought that, you know, it would be great, you know, if we could bring in some more students and, like, you know, give them some chance to interact and to listen to the music that they enjoyed when they were a child. And the second part was because my school, we are a specific performing arts school in New York City, and you have to audition to get in, and our school principal noted that a lot of the students that are coming into our school are already from like middle income or like upper middle income families and districts in New York City, and she thought that, you know, we should really try to reach out to more underserved communities and underfunded schools and try to get those students to learn more about the arts and to learn more about opportunities, what kind of arts high schools are in New York City, what kind of arts colleges there are. So they started asking some of us to go out to do workshops in these schools, and so I kind of combined those two ideas, and that's really how United Under Arts got started. So here are some of our current numbers. We have, at last count, about 600 some members from all the continents, all the inhabited continents, in 25 countries. We currently have about 36 chapters internationally, and we've also donated a lot of resources, estimated at over 7,000 articles of personal protective equipment for some hospitals and nursing homes in the areas that we have supported. And roughly that's equated to a $16,000 cash give back. So the events that we're running, we run concerts. Our local chapters run concerts for the nursing homes in their specific area. At an international level, we also run a monthly concert and smaller collaboration concerts for more specifically for countries and states that we do not yet have chapters in. And we also occasionally provide arts tutoring depending on the availability of our students and the demand from the hospitals and nursing homes that we have contacts in. We also run various workshops. Some workshops are more about specific how to draw or how to act, those kinds of workshops. We also run workshops specifically on like what kind of arts colleges there are, how to prepare an audition, how to prepare a portfolio. We also run a lot of various fundraisers. So usually we've raised money for things like arts education, or we raise money to help charities that are kind of related to our mission, such as dementia research. Other than that, we also collect cards and music devices and art supplies, and we donate them to schools and nursing homes that do not have these supplies. Here are just some pictures of some of the previous events that we've done. So the one on the left is a newsletter that our Toronto chapter created. Under that is a picture of the promotional flyer that we used to market our most recent international concert. And then on the right, we have a picture of some of the doctors at a hospital that we donated supplies to. So you can join us by going to our website, and there's a tab under there that says join us. And other than that, these are our socials. You can also find us on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And our email is info@unitedunderarts.org.
Okay, so if you guys want to check out United Under Arts, I dropped a bunch of information. Yeah, I literally just copy and pasted from the slide, Faith. Okay, does anyone have any questions for Serena? So I actually had a question also. So your organization is arts-based, right? So you offer tutoring. I actually did hear about your organization from one called Epic, if you know what I'm talking about. Epic Performing Arts. Like when they were forming it, they are actually like saying that they wanted to do something similar to yours. So I think your organization actually inspired some other ones.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I've never heard of that, but that's very nice of them. How do I manage all the different chapters? We have a system set in place where we have under our international team, we also have a regional team. So we have like people specifically representing specific countries or specific regions of like the US or Canada. So we don't directly manage the chapters. We have our regional officers manage the chapters in their regions, and then they file monthly reports, and we go through them and see what kind of issues a lot of chapters are having that we can address. So that's kind of how we manage the chapters. I mean, I'm personally biased just because I am a musician. I'm not good at visual art. If I'd been the one doing like the design, we probably would have died a long time ago. And the original thing that really kind of inspired me was playing music for the elderly. So I am a little biased in that. My favorite form is music.
Violin is clearly the best instrument, by the way. I'm biased though.
You're biased. I think what personally really helped me was just keeping in contact with a lot of my friends and peers from school, and also, you know, and also like getting some tips from them, and like, you know, sometimes we would gather together and play online over Zoom, even though that doesn't work quite well. And yeah, because you can't afford the instrument. Yeah. I would say when I was without my instrument for a while, because I forgot to bring it back when I was on a longer vacation, there were definitely some like, I guess like techniques that you can still kind of practice, like in terms of like breathing exercises, like strengthening your lungs and like your capacity for playing, and so like other exercises that you can do with like your mouth, and like I guess like your like, well, for saxophones we call it embouchure, but like I'm sure there are probably definitely some exercises that you could use to like practice and like help so that when you can go back to playing your trombone, that it's easier.
All right, if that wraps up any questions everyone would have. Aishwarya, you're up next for Women in Various Environments.
Yes, okay. So we appreciate having you here to show so much and what women can bring into the world. So thank you so much, Serena. I just wanted to say that once again. And today I am going to talk a little bit about women in STEM. So these three women defy gender barriers. If you take a look at Pooja Chandrasekhar, she founded a STEM organization to support girls in coding when she was in high school. And now she's a Harvard student who studies biomedical engineering. Or there is Dr. Jedidah Eisler, who was the first African American woman to earn a PhD in astrophysics at Yale. She was even invited to the White House in honor for her efforts of advocating the importance of inclusion in STEM. And lastly, we have Bindi Karaya, who is not only known as the Queen of Startups, but she's actually recognized for her involvement in many women empowerment-based organizations that are in their founding stage. And if you didn't know these names before, you do now. Eve can be just as strong as Adam, if not better. And these three women are not the minority. They are hundreds of organizations that seek to empower women. And on the next slide, there are a couple of examples of organizations that help women in STEM, such as Girls in STEM, Code to Inspire, Girls Start, Girls Who Code, Tech Bridge Girls, Women in High Tech, Girl Develop It, Black Girls Code, STEM for Her, Women Who Code, and National Girls Collaborative Project. So a big shout out to these organizations and many more who are not listed to helping all the women who want to pursue STEM and pursue STEM.
Okay, thank you so much. So my name's Esohe, like I mentioned earlier, and I'm just going to be telling y'all a few facts about women in the military. So despite the limitations set upon them in society, the success of many powerful women cannot be ignored. So let's actually change gears and talk about these women in the military. Okay, so we all know that the military is a very male-dominated force in America since the colonists rose up against British redcoats. So did you actually know that less than 17% of active duty military is made up of women? Like, what the heck? That's crazy. We need to definitely change that. If you look at the women who are in the military in today's statistics, you'll see that they all come from various different racial backgrounds, which can bring diversity to leadership roles. Of course, there are many issues against women in the military today. You'll also see that women are more concentrated in administrative roles as well as medical roles. Again, facing the gender norms and expectations, that's an issue because you actually see that they're, more catering to that type of like motherhood roles that we see. And we should definitely change that. So keeping all this in mind, what do we think about the question of whether or not women should be drafted in the military? I personally agree with that. Doubling the number of recruiting leads to foster a sense of gender inclusion in the national defense would definitely be appreciated throughout the world and just to fight for, our country. So diversity in leadership roles can elevate our country so much, and that's why we need to push for them to happen. Despite all the limitations I said, there are Despite all the limitations I mentioned, there are actually three amazing women that I actually want to bring light to today. So the first one is Jessica Jones, who's actually one of the first women to attend the U.S. Army Ordnance School, which is amazing because you see her breaking barriers. The second one is Nigel West. She's actually the first Black female lieutenant general, which is amazing because you see a POC taking a leadership role. The last one is Robin Fontes. She's actually the first female deputy commanding general of the Combined Security. You go, girls, break them gender barriers. So yes, definitely those are three amazing women.
Okay. All right, y'all, I'm back. And so I'll be discussing three amazing women in politics. First of all, to get started, if you guys don't know who these women are, you guys really need to research them and then reevaluate your life decisions because I don't know how you don't know them. So first we have Kamala Harris, and she is an African American, the second African American woman and first South Asian American senator in history. If the Biden-Harris ticket wins this presidential election, she'll be the first woman, Indian American, Jamaican American VP in U.S. history, which is crazy. Next up is Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, or also known as AOC, and she is the youngest person to ever serve in the United States Congress at age 29, and a strong female advocate to boot. Lastly, but not least, we have Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is the first woman ever elected to the U.S. Senate from Massachusetts as part of the sitting U.S. Senate that had 20 female senators in office, the largest U.S. Senate delegation in history at the time, following the November 2012 elections. Can you see the light at the end of the tunnel? Imagine seeing women in power. Our founding fathers could never, which is true. So, yes.
Okay, so now it's time for Kristen Fang to tell a little bit about herself.
Hey guys, I am super excited to be here. I'm feeling very inspired and ready to do many things after learning all of these new facts. I am a product manager at Cengage, so I work in the engineering department. And I graduated from Harvard last year. When I was in high school, I was homeschooled, and one thing that I noticed is that there is a huge financial barrier to getting access to high quality educational information, especially in terms of college prep. So something that I love doing during college and also now is working with students and helping them through the college application process. Some previous work I did, I co-founded a fintech startup. I was part of Y Combinator, which is an accelerator that has previously spun out other startups you might have heard of, like Airbnb, Coinbase, DoorDash, and more. And in high school, I was also a national level flutist, so I loved hearing about United Under Arts. Very passionate about music and love the efforts there. So can you move to the next slide? So some successes and failures. Most of them were surrounded on my experience in the startup world. A high was definitely getting the amazing chance to pitch my startup at the 2019 Grace Hopper conference. And for any girls out here interested in computer science, definitely check out that conference. It was very inspiring. You can see in that photo, all of us are female founders. And in 2019, only 2.8% of US venture capital money went to startups with an all-female founder base. So that is tiny. Let's say there are 35 attendees here. That means only that one of them would be a fully female founder team, and then everyone else would be a guy. So there's still a lot of headway to make in terms of investment there. But again, it was definitely a high because it meant a lot to be surrounded by other inspiring women. A low would definitely be having to make the decision to dissolve my startup. I'm happy to talk about that more, and I'll drop the link to my Medium article in case if you're interested in reading about what I learned. But I think what inspired me to write that article, I'll drop the link here, is that oftentimes in the startup world, you'll hear a lot of elevated stories of success and not really much of failure. But it's really that in failure, you learn so much. And that's why I wanted to share the lessons I learned. So for anyone interested in entrepreneurship or eventually building your startup, definitely check out the article I wrote. Next slide. So more about College Lead and what I specifically do. So my goal with College Lead is to share, oh, thank you, Kaylee, is to share how to apply to colleges, especially top tier colleges like the Ivy Leagues, and to make all this information available to as many students as possible. So I make a lot of YouTube videos, including sharing my Harvard admission file and also tips on how to write your college essays and plan your extracurriculars available for anyone to watch, as well as managing a community of over 280 high school students via Slack. And that gives me the chance to answer a lot of students' questions. And then I also offer one-on-one consultations through Zoom. And then it's really the money that I get from Zoom that helps me to continue to contribute to the other two free avenues. And for any students here who would like to join my Slack channel or subscribe to my YouTube, I will drop the links here. Definitely come and check us out. Okay. And based on my experience building a fintech startup and also working on things like College Lead, I have sort of three main bits of advice for any woman listening. First is to, as mentioned before, to support each other and lift each other up. You guys are going to be your strongest community and strongest mentors and supporters and cheerleaders, so definitely surround yourself with other inspiring women. The next is kind of counterintuitive, but I found this essential when I was building a startup, is to not focus on the fact that you are female and that you are at a disadvantage. If you think like that, then naturally your body language and your vocabulary will sort of indicate or reflect that you think you are at a disadvantage. It's kind of like the idea of fake it till you make it, and that ties with the third idea, which is see yourself as equal to your classmates and your coworkers. Take the initiative and take the stand to speak up whenever you can. So yeah, and then the last slide is mostly, I wanted to leave time for questions in case if anyone has anything they want to ask me, anything from college applications to building a startup to life at Harvard. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more information, and also join my Slack group. It's a really fun community there, and we even have a wholesome memes channel that is very fun. So yeah, let's wait a sec to see if any questions come up.
Yeah, so I did have a question. How much do you think colleges look at assessments such as SAT, PSAT, and like AP scores?
Yeah, so prior to COVID, you could think of test scores as sort of a qualifier. You want to hit a certain range in order to kind of get to the next round in the admission officer evaluation process. That being said, right now with COVID, a lot of schools are going test optional. So the policy is a little up in the air right now. Some schools, including Harvard, don't require you to submit a test score in order to apply. But generally the range, based on what I saw from my Harvard admission file, if you want to aim for like the Ivy League tier, you will want to aim for, let's say, 33 or above on your ACT and the equivalent of that for your SAT. I didn't have perfect scores, by the way, and I also did get a few B's in high school. So you will probably want to work to differentiate yourself at through your extracurriculars, and modern divergence is clearly a very strong way you can do that. One question is, what's the most important factor that colleges consider when choosing who to accept? I don't think there's any one singular factor. A lot of colleges will look at each applicant holistically, meaning they'll consider your essays to your test scores to your extracurricular activities. I will say that once you get to the very competitive level, like the Ivy League tier, the greatest differentiator will probably be through your extracurricular activities. I think for me, without being able to do as much as I did in music, I might have not been able to get in. So yeah, next question. What's important to have in your college admission application that colleges look at if they are test optional? This is my guess, and there is a lot of question up in the air because this is the first time something like this has happened, especially with COVID. But if I were you, I would focus a lot more on your college essays and also your extracurriculars, particularly that 150 character description in the Common App, because you really want to demonstrate the impact and what you did in each of your extracurriculars, as well as stand out and really tell your story through your college essays. I think if anything, those two components will be one of the more heavily weighted factors in your application, in addition to recommendation letters. And if anyone is wondering how to ask their teacher for a recommendation letter or build a strong mentor-mentee relationship with your teacher, I also made a YouTube video on that, so definitely check out my YouTube channel. Little spacer, hope you go looking deeper into them. So to answer Sophia's question, likely not, just because they are going through thousands and thousands of applications. What you really want to highlight in that 150 character description is what you did, what was the impact or significance, and that's it. You can elaborate more in the additional information section if you feel like it's necessary, but usually the 150 character description is enough. And it doesn't have to be a full sentence. A pro tip is start with the verb and then just make it a fragment, put a semicolon and put in the next statement. And that's how you can fit in as much information as possible. Victoria, did you apply ED or RD? I applied regular decision to Harvard. And here's another instance of where I failed. Stanford was actually the school I wanted to go to the most. I applied early action to that. I got rejected. And clearly that, I think, well, looking back at it, not only is Stanford a very competitive school, but also my application was not ready or not as polished as it could have been when I applied for regular decision. So for any college seniors now, your chances of getting into a school are going to be higher if your application is more ready. So if you found yourself not having enough time or chance to polish your application before November early action or early decision deadline, just apply regular decision because you're going to have a higher chance with a better quality application. Yeah, so for Jess and Emily's question, definitely. Oh, just quickly on Victoria's question with the regular decision deadline in December. Sometimes they are in December, but other ones are in January. So you want to take a look at the colleges on your list and take note of when the deadlines are happening. And I actually do have a calendar template that you can use to keep track of all those deadlines. And I share that in my Slack channel and also on my website. So be sure to join. So in regards to how COVID has impacted you, you are not alone. COVID has impacted many different students, and doing well in a class in person is very different and requires a whole other kind of skill set to doing well in a class that's fully based on Zoom with that transition. So what I recommend doing is obviously moving forward, continue to work hard and study hard and adapt as best as you can. But in the additional information section of the common application, they actually added a question asking how COVID has impacted you. So use that section to describe what the transition process for you was like and why that might have been a little difficult for you, especially if COVID has impacted you in terms of finances, like if your parents lost their job because of COVID, and then that meant you had to take on more responsibilities, or you didn't have good Wi-Fi connection at home. Those are all factors you definitely want admission officers to know, and you can describe that there. And if you're wondering how exactly to write the response in the additional information section, I made another YouTube video about that. And I think this goes again towards what I am really trying to do, which is to provide as much high quality college application information as I can out there on the web, because I don't think you should have to pay for general information like how to fill out the comment app, how to write the additional information section. Just go to my YouTube channel or my Slack channel, ask a question there, or watch my YouTube videos, and you should be able to get your answers there. So yeah, with that, I think I probably have taken up a lot of time, but you guys had a lot of really great questions, and feel free to continue to ask me those questions in the comments of my YouTube channel or in Slack. And thank you guys for having me, and good luck on your college application process.
Yeah, that was a great presentation. It's definitely useful to a lot of people here. Next, we're gonna have Esohe do her women's rights section.
Great. Okay, so to start off, why aren't women seen as role models? I have a simple answer for you. It's due to the lack of representation. It's a simple answer that has a simple solution, and I'm sure you can guess what that is. Represent, present, and honor the great women in our world. This slide shows a list of women that I personally look up to.
Next slide, please.
Mine's talking about the representation slide. I don't know.
Yeah, are you on the new script doc?
Yeah, this is the new script doc.
Really? Okay, I'm really sorry.
I can continue. No, it's fine.
Okay.
So definitely just represent and show our women in CEO positions and things like that. So yeah, it says this slide shows a list of women that I personally look up to. So just off head, they are Ava Tukulu, Serena Williams, and I believe I put AOC on there as well. So yeah, the different statistics that affect transgender women include 26% of job losses, sorry, I can't read that, 50% harassed on the job, 20% evicted, as well as 78% trans students that were harassed and assaulted. So those are horrible statistics that we need to implement policies and change. So yeah. Definitely do better for our women and create policies to do better for every type of woman.
So now we're going to have Sarah Palmer do her Empowerly part.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the Director of Growth and Partnerships at Empowerly, which I'll talk all about later. We can go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about myself first. So I grew up between the Philippines and California, and in California, I attended a early college academy, which means I did community college classes and all AP courses throughout high school, which means I had like 4 AA degrees by the time I graduated. And the really cool thing about my high school was that it was over 90% people of color. It was over 90% students who, if they went on to college, they would be the first people in their family to go to a 4-year university, which included me when I graduated and was accepted for a full ride to UC Berkeley. I originally studied bioengineering, and then there's a long diatribe about feeling really lost and not really understanding what I was doing in STEM because nobody around me looked and talked like me. I took a year off, I went to China, and when I came back, I decided to move into legal studies and work at the Student Learning Center, where I worked as in the writing center, helping students from English as a second language backgrounds, and everybody from first-year freshmen who were writing their film studies papers to graduate students working on their thesis proposals. And then after leaving UC Berkeley, I moved to China, where I lived for 3 years working in college admissions. And I originally started at the Writing Center director, as the Writing Center director, because that's what my experience was in beforehand, working in writing. And then I moved into the business side of things, and then eventually moved on to Empowerly. So that's just a little bit of my career path. And sort of outside of this, you know, I'm really passionate about Chinese. I speak fluently thanks to my years over there. I'm a stand-up comedian. I do that on my, I did that in the before times, before coronavirus. And I'm just really passionate about helping students who come from marginalized backgrounds make their voices heard and learn how to access the tools of the haves, so to speak. And so this slide really speaks to that. It speaks to what I would call my North Star. So this is a concept I learned while working at the Student Learning Center at UC Berkeley. And it's the idea of like, what are the styles of teaching? And I believe that the way that you receive your education, the way that you receive mentorship, the way that you approach your education completely shapes how you'll move forward in your future. So for to go over some of the like the banking educational style, that's basically the traditional way that we see education, where I, the teacher, the person who knows all about college admissions, I will deign my knowledge on you because you know nothing, oh dear high school student, and please follow the track that I've laid out for you, right? So that's like a very extreme simplified version of what banking is. And I really believe that this way of approaching your teacher as somebody who knows everything and you must follow them really does violence on students from especially marginalized backgrounds. And a really great example from my time at the Student Learning Center is I worked with a lot of students who don't come from very academic families. My family is a really good example. My mom doesn't speak English as a first language. Her like written and spoken English is really, really awful. And so when it comes to writing messages on Facebook to me, she feels suddenly like, oh God, I'm kind of stupid. Like that's kind of an extreme way of saying it, but because she knows that the way that she's writing in English to me on Facebook is not the correct way of talking, right? And so it kind of like reinforces this idea that as a non-native speaker, she's somehow less than and she's just not good at writing. And that's what you see in writing courses at college universities. You have students who don't see themselves as strong writers, and the teacher says, here's how you do it, get up to speed, right? And then they either erase their background of the idiosyncrasies they have with their own culture, or they feel like, wow,
this really isn't for me. I'm just going to do what I need to pass this class, and then I'll never take another writing course ever again. So that's sort of what my background was at the Student Learning Center, and this has really influenced my whole experience in college admissions counseling, and even in my background in business. So I said originally I had studied bioengineering at UC Berkeley. I studied that for 2.5 years before I decided, like, wow, this really isn't for me. And most of my friends at UC Berkeley are the girls who stuck in STEM, unlike I did. And you hear a lot about how, you know, at UC Berkeley, actually, most girls, like, there's a lot of girls in bioengineering. My first year, I felt like, what are they talking about? There's no disparity in engineering between girls and boys. But after your second year, after your third year, you see more and more girls dropping out. And that really has to do with that banking educational style where here's how things are done. And if you're not like that, right, you either have to become like a boy, right? You have to have that male mindset of like, it's a very long discussion of what that looks like, but you either have to become like that or leave engineering, right? It's just not for you. And so my goal in moving in education is to disrupt this cycle of having marginalized people be discouraged from continuing the path that they choose by changing the way that we do education. So that led me into China and also led me into Empowerly. And I'll talk a little bit about what we do at Empowerly. So we're an online college counseling service. We actually started 5 years ago. And a year and a half ago, we became a venture-backed startup. We were backed by Berkeley Skydeck, which is the official startup accelerator for UC Berkeley. As you can see, we have a whole range of services that we provide, everything from helping students choose the right courses very intentionally in planning their future to actually working on the college applications. We also work with graduate students. I myself, between Empowerly and my prior company, I've worked with hundreds of students getting into schools, all of the top 100 schools, as well as graduate schools. So we can go into the next slide and talk a little bit more specifically. And so how it works is we assign our students to a whole team of people who guide them through the entire process. You know, your main point person will be your counselor, and our counselor team, we currently have somewhere between 60 and 80 counselors. They come from all top 100 schools. Most of them are top 50. Some of them are current college students, and so you can feel really close to them and feel like you're talking to an older brother or sister. Or we also have counselors who have been doing this for 10, 20 years. They're former admissions officers. So we can match our students to the counselor that we think will meet their needs the best. We also match them with a research team who will answer any of the questions that they might have. So a really common question we got this year was, oh my gosh, all of my extracurriculars were canceled. I have nothing to do now. What can I do? What will be offered virtually? Or I lost my internship, or I lost my summer program. Our research team worked with each of the students to find a whole list of activities that met their interests that they could get into. And then lastly, we have an essay editing team, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I know a lot of you guys are high school seniors. So as you're getting to the final versions of your essays, I know a lot of students are always freaking out like, I just need a way to delete 100 more words, right? Or like, how can I make sure that this is proofread and that there's no typos, or this is worded in the exact perfect way? And if you need those more final edits, I think our essay editing tool is a really great tool to have. All of our editors are Ivy League English master's students, and they'll get your essay back to you in usually less than 24 hours. I would say even 2 to 3 hours max. So yeah, that's some of our services. And here's a little bit about like how it works. This is more of the tangible, like, do we actually get students into colleges? And you can see like we quintuple or quadruple our students' chances. But for me, what really matters is that our students leave our program feeling that they've really been empowered in their choices, right? That they know what they're getting themselves into, and it was done in a way that was customized to what their needs were, right? That it wasn't some admissions counselor saying like, okay, here's what you do, here's the timeline that you need to follow. And it's really something based on, well, what are your goals and what are your needs and what are you really looking to fulfill in your life? So that's what I really love about what I do at Empowerly. And we can go to the next slide. So this is something a lot of you guys already got the email about this, but as part of our partnership, we're offering this promo offer for you guys. So you can schedule a free consultation with us, even if you don't want the promo offer, and you can request to send an email and say like, oh, I'd like to do this consultation with me if you have specific questions for me about application packages. But the first 10 people who sign up with us will get a 10% off discount off of select packages. So that's just something for you guys, all the high school seniors getting it started on their application packages. And the last slide, if you have questions just for me, is how to contact me, sarah@empowerly.com. And at this time, if anybody has any questions about anything, about applications, although Kristen took a ton of those questions already, you can ask me about UC Berkeley, you can ask me about China, you can ask me about comedy, you can ask me anything. Or not, that's also okay.
So I did have a question about the college essays. Can you explain a little bit more about what colleges look for in those?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's also really hard to answer because every school is different, right? But I will assume most of you guys are gonna write the Common App personal statement. And what I will say, like the most important thing that I think students need to do, you know, when I work on the personal statement with my students, it's not uncommon for them to get to 60, 70 drafts with me alone, and they might work with other people on their drafts as well. And the reason for that is like you need to dig deep and find out what your core values are, right? Like what really matters to you. I remember like one of my own first drafts, I tried to write about piano, and piano does matter to me. I mean, I studied it for 13 years and I did the whole recitals and everything. But it's not like those things that are at my core. If you stripped everything away from me, this is who Sarah is. And I think taking a lot of time to reflect on that and to find the best way to demonstrate that, that's what colleges are looking for. They want to know who you really are and not who they think, or not who you think they want you to be. So, yeah. Hope that answers your questions. I'll get to some of the other questions here. How was my own college admissions experience? Oh gosh, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have any of these resources. Nobody in my family had ever graduated traditionally from high school. So I had nobody to go to. And I made every single mistake you can possibly make in terms of like the application itself. So, I mean, I thankfully qualified for scholarships because my dad is a disabled veteran. But I think I almost missed the FAFSA deadline. I didn't know that I qualified for fee waivers, and so my parents ended up spending a bunch of money on application fees. And just thankfully, I was a pretty strong writer, and I worked a lot with my English teacher on my essays. So I think going through that experience and now becoming an educator, I see so much of like how lucky I think I was in having the teacher who would guide me through these experiences. And in terms of like where I got in, so I applied to like 15 different schools. Most of them were here in California, but I did apply to a few of the Ivy Leagues, and I got into Cornell, Berkeley, LA, and then I was waitlisted for Yale. So, you know, like, I think it was okay for someone who had no idea what she was doing. And I definitely don't recommend that to any of you guys because it has only gotten more competitive since I was in high school. A few other questions I'll take. Are essays required in college applications? Is it only a few schools? It depends on the school. There are some schools that might only require the personal statement for the Common App and have no supplements. There are some schools that have like 7 supplement questions. I think Wake Forest is one of those schools. And then if you apply, for example, the CSUs, the like Sacramento State University or San Francisco State University, they're 2 pretty popular schools here in California. Those don't have any essay requirements. So it does depend. And as you're building the list of schools that you're going to apply to, I would research all of that, as well as research if they have an interview requirement, because that's different for every school as well. Oh, I want to answer this question, and then if I'm over, I'll go ahead and stop. But how is comedy different in China compared to America? I totally want to answer this question because I feel very strongly about it, and most of my comedy is about the very strange interracial relationships that you'll see in different parts of the world. You know, my parents are interracial, and living in China, you see a lot of that, and you see how that can contribute to a lot more of like the problems in like gender equality and things like that. In China, I think there's a lot more opportunity to practice saying things that have not been totally worked out and not worry too much about the consequences. I think in America, there's so much stigma about the words that you say that if you're not careful, you could like really not do well here in comedy, and kind of you have to like move to different comedy clubs and reestablish your reputation. And the other thing is that because the pool is so much smaller in China, you have the opportunity to meet a lot, like much more talented people. So my best friends, they ran a comedy club in China, in Shanghai, and I got to meet Dave Chappelle backstage. I got to meet God, I'm like blanking on his name, but I got to meet like a lot of really great comedians while I was there. So I feel very strongly about comedy. But anyways, I know there's a ton more questions, and if you guys want to talk to me about them, feel free to email me or ping me after this.
Okay, so I'm going to be also talking about role models. And so, next slide, please. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, a couple of role models that you guys should definitely, find out, research yourself are the women listed on the screen. Those include AOC, Jeanette Mock, Serena Williams, and Ava Tukulu, Simone Biles, and lastly, China Anne McClain. So who is your role model? Definitely put that in the chat and we can discuss and things like that and see if we have similar different role models or, they're around the same. Okay, so we have Michelle Obama. Yes, definitely a favorite. Kaylee, definitely a favorite. Yes. I don't know the first one. I really wish I did, but definitely AOC, yes. Yes. We love our grandmas and our moms. Coco, I'm sorry, I couldn't read that one, but definitely, I'm sure that she's a favorite. Doja Cat, definitely a favorite. Yeah, I definitely have a lot of role models, but definitely I like musicians like Ariana Grande. She's literally my favorite. I like Millie Bobby Brown. I'm a Stranger Things stan, so that's something that we can relate with. I hope if anyone else loves Stranger Things.
I love Stranger Things.
Okay, so if you guys have any other role models, feel free just to drop them down below. But yeah, that is all for me. And then next is Zoe.
Hello, y'all. I'm back. So now it's time to honor today's women and the great feats they accomplished. But first, let's meet the women of yesterday. So we'll go through this timeline with y'all. So first, we have July 19th through 20th, 1848, which is the first women's rights convention held in Seneca Falls, New York. Next, we have May 29th, 1851. Sojourner Truth delivers her famous Ain't I a Woman speech. If you don't know who Sojourner Truth is, she's a former slave and women abolitionist, specifically for Black women. And this speech was to um, basically criticize the women's suffrage movement of not including Black women, which you could still argue is still an issue today. Next, we have December 10th, 1869. Wyoming is the first territory to pass America's women's suffrage law. Next, we have August 18th, 1920, is the ratification of the 19th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, giving women the right to vote, except for Black women. That wasn't done until the voting right of 1865. Next, we have June 8th, 1983, which Sally Ride is the first American woman in space on the Space Shuttle Challenger. Next slide. Next, we have January 4th, 2007. U.S. Representative Nancy Pelosi becomes the first female Speaker of the House. Last but not least, July 16th, 2016, Hillary Clinton becomes the first woman to receive a presidential nomination from a major political party. So that brings us to today. To all the girls behind your computers who joined us today, I can't wait to see how each and every one of you bring our gender future to new heights. Now it's time for a poll question. Do you think feminism will ever reach equality? We'd love to see your thoughts in the chat. You can send it to everyone or privately to me if you'd like to be anonymous. I'll be sharing responses once we get any. Okay, ooh, we got it. So, ooh, this is interesting. If you want to drop it in the chat why a lot of you guys said maybe so.
So next we're going to have Esohe speak again, and she's going to tell us how we break gender barriers. Esohe, you're on mute. Sorry.
I'm so sorry about that.
It's
Okay,
okay.
so look at this list. If there's one thing that you already done, I thank you, I applaud you, I congratulate you, and I send you a virtual hug. If you haven't, you're wrong. Look at number 6, study feminist history. This webinar was a ride. Thank you for choosing Modern Divergence as your airline. So there's a poll. Basically, you guys can just answer whichever step you decide to take first.
So it's me. You finally know who I am now. I'm the creative director of Modern Divergence, and I had a lot of fun helping put this presentation together with so many interesting people. So now it's time for the thing all of you came for, giveaways. Let's go over the details. As you can see, there are a few prizes that you can get: spa kit, gift cards, posters, and new free access to the Empowerly portal. If you would like to win a spa kit, you need to private message Faith of a guess of how many flowers in total were on these slides. Then if you want to be entered in a raffle to win a poster or Empowerly access, we're going to take a selfie in a second and you'll post it to your Instagram story. Remember to tag us. If you'd like to win a gift card, you're going to reply to our Instagram story prompt, that's at Modern Divergence, and you'll answer these 2 questions. First, what will I do to empower women? And second, to me, woman equality means ... let's do this. In the chat, if you're interested in taking a selfie to be entered in the raffle, can you please say yes in the chat so we can see who would like to turn their cameras on? And then also remember to send your guess of how many flowers are in the chat to Faith, private message, so your answer doesn't get copied. While we're doing that, I'm going to put Modern Divergence Instagram in the chat. And if you'd like to win a gift card, you're going to have to respond to a story prompt there. In the meantime, Faith, if you could unshare your screen so we can see how many people want to take a picture with us. Okay. Gallery view. Brittany, your camera's on. Are you going to take a selfie with us? Say cheese, I guess. Wait, I don't know. So we have one person taking a selfie. If she's the only one, I guess she'll get the prize. Okay, Victoria. And someone else, that's cool. Sorry, I would say your name, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Okay, yes. For the Instagram selfie, what you're going to do is share it to your story and tag us at Modern Divergence in your story. And then we'll see it and we'll make sure you're entered in. If you're talking about the flower count, you do private message Faith on Zoom, like your guess of how many flowers there are. Okay.
So like, do I take a picture of this gallery view with my phone and then post it on my story, or what do I do?
What we're gonna do is I'm actually going to take a screenshot when everybody is ready. And yeah, I'm gonna take a screenshot of everybody. But I mean, like, if you want to do it right now, you can. Like, doesn't really matter to me. Your picture's still gonna be on. Oh, Brittany is showing me something, I think. Cool.
I was showing, like, I already got the picture.
Okay, cool. I mean, I was gonna do a group picture screenshot, but if you guys want to take it by yourselves, that's fine too. Like, however you want to share it. Okay, I think we have everybody on here. Everyone that wants their cameras to be on. I'm gonna take a Kristen, if you want to have your camera on, because you're a panelist and you're like amazing. So can you take a picture of this? Okay, cool. So I think we have everybody. Okay, this is the last warning, okay? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Everybody smile. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cheese. All right. I got it. Thank you so much. You can turn off your flower if you'd like. So has everybody submitted their flower guess?
No, I'm doing that right now.
Okay, you can either private message Faith or me, whatever works best for you. Another thing I need to tell you guys, if you submit a flower count, we need your contact information so we can tell you if you were a winner. So it could be Instagram, phone number. Faith, if you would go ahead and share your screen again, just so everybody can look at the giveaway slide. Thank you. All right. I'm going to give you guys until 4 o'clock to submit your flower responses, and then while we're waiting, I do want to know, like, what are your thoughts on this webinar? Did you enjoy it? Did you learn something? Would you come to another one? So like unmute or, oh yeah, poll, do a poll, yes. Oh my God, you guys are so nice. Will we be given access to the recording? Yes, if you'd like the recording, we can definitely send that out to you. I know that all the attendees sent your emails to Aishwarya. So if you would like to, just put it in the chat and Aishwarya will definitely send the recording to you via email.
Yeah, I'll be sending the recording to everyone who signed up with that form.
Emily had a question. Okay, the flower count thing. All right, so as you probably noticed, there were like a bunch of flowers throughout the slides. I kind of went crazy with the flowers. And then we decided to make a little game out of it. If you guess a number of how many flowers were on the slides in total, and your guess is close, then you have the opportunity to be entered in a raffle to win a poster or Empowerly access. The other ways to win a spa kit and gift card are also on the slide. If you have any questions, you can tell me. And yes, Faith says, private message me with your guess of how many flowers there were. Okay, it's 4 o'clock. I'm going to assume that everybody who wanted to submit things for the flower count has already done so. For Instagram replies, which will give you a gift card, the opportunity to win a gift card, those will, like, you can still do them throughout the day. I mean, yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So flower count, actually one person here guessed the exact number and that was Emily. You guessed 45 and that was correct. So I don't even know how you did that, but okay. Yeah, so you will definitely get a poster on Empowerly access. We will put you on the list. Other people, you will also be entered in the raffle and we'll let you know via your contact info that you sent us. If you want a prize or even if you were just entered in the raffle, we'll also let you know. Yeah, it is crazy. I can't believe you guessed that. Why would you do that? I was hoping nobody, no, nothing. I mean, I was totally hoping. So.
She said she was hoping, no.
Yes, make sure to send your contact information, Brittany. When will you find out? Well, I'm gonna try to get everybody's stuff in by today. If not today, you can expect it by tomorrow morning. Yeah. Yes, we'll also be making a summary post on Instagram, and we will probably announce the winners. So if you do not want your name to be on there, like we won't take a picture of you. We'll just have your name. Like if you don't want your name to be on the Instagram post, please let us know. Also, the screenshot I did take of everybody, that will also be on there. So yeah, if you have any issues with that, let me know. And I can like take your picture out somehow if that's important to you. You're welcome. Thank you for enjoying the presentation. Yeah. This is probably the end. Thank you for coming. We'll notify you when the next webinar is if you'd like to come. Bye. Faith's gonna end the meeting. Faith, you're in charge.